crazy phenomenon where a group of people have a clear, collective memory of something that apparently never happened. It's a strange phenomenon where some people are always affected, some never affected, and others are somewhere in between. No one really knows why this is, but that's what makes it so fun to talk about. I've got 8 Christmas-themed Mandela effects for you today, so let's get right into it. Starting off today's video is the classic Christmas song, I'll Be Home for Christmas. The lyrics for the song go as follows. I'll be home for Christmas, you can blank on me. What goes in the blank? Is it you can count on me, or is it you can plan on me? If you're like so many of us, you probably said you can count on me, but that is now apparently wrong and has always been wrong. It's you can plan on me. Tell me, is this what you remember? This Mandela effect has blown away everyone, and I mean everyone. So what about the dozens and dozens of versions of this song? Surely one of them says count, right? Well, let's check them out. What about Bing Crosby?
You can plan.
Michael Bublé.
You can plan.
Frank Sinatra.
You can plan.
Elvis.
You can plan.
Dean Martin.
You can plan.
Perry Como.
You can plan.
If the lyric "You Can Count on Me" exists, which it very well might, it's in none of the classic and well-known versions of this song. So, what happened to it? Why do we all remember this? Let's talk about a line from a scene in the classic Christmas movie Home Alone that apparently never existed. Not in deleted scenes, or in its theatrical release, or its trailer, it just doesn't exist. Here's the scene. The 2 burglars, Marv and Harry, are chasing down Kevin because they're suspicious of him. After an interaction where they almost hit him with their van. The chase concludes at a church where the lines, "Maybe went into the church. I'm not going in there. Me neither," are said. That's how the line goes now. So what's missing? Many people remember one of them saying the line, "That place gives me the creeps," but it's no longer said.
Maybe we're in the church.
I'm not going in there.
Me neither.
Let's get out of here.
That line doesn't exist anymore in any versions of the movie, but tons of people online remember this. What about you? Let's talk about the Grinch. Every year around this time, I get comments from people telling me to cover this one. So it's finally time to cover it. Let's do it. What is the name of this Christmas book and movie retelling the story of the Grinch? Is it The Grinch Who Stole Christmas? Or is it How the Grinch Stole Christmas? This is one of those that didn't necessarily affect me, but there are so many cases of people online who are affected by this that it can't possibly be ignored. I mean, there are hundreds if not thousands of comments and posts out there from people who remember this differently than it is now. The correct answer is How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I want to hear your thoughts on this because so many people remember this differently, and yet all of those people remember it in the exact same way. This is what I find so weird about all of this. Does anyone remember the North Pole? Story-wise, it's where Santa and his workshop reside. It's where the toys are made and where the reindeers like Dunder and Blixen live. This place is located at the northernmost hemisphere of the Earth, just like the South Pole is located on the southernmost hemisphere of the Earth. This northern point lies diametrically opposite to its southern point and is defined directionally as true north. So tell me, what exists in the North Pole? Is it a snowy landmass or a vast ocean? The answer is a vast ocean, the Arctic Ocean to be precise. Obviously, the North Pole doesn't exist as the Christmas story explains it, but there has to be a snowy landmass up there, right? Nope. The North Pole doesn't exist in that sense. Get this, we have known that the North Pole was an ocean as early as the 16th century. So this isn't some new change, it's a fact that we've had for nearly 500 years. These inconsistencies could have spawned from ever-changing ice formations found within the Arctic Sea, or perhaps through changes to this planet's climate, but nonetheless, as of now, there is no North Pole as a landmass, snowy or otherwise. It's just a big open ocean. Pull up a map and look for yourself. So what do you remember? Am I alone in remembering there being a big snowy landmass on the top of our globes growing up? You have to admit, this is going to be weird for those tech-savvy kids growing up when they Google North Pole and they find an ocean. Good luck with that explanation, parents. That's the true scary part of this video. We're looking at the names of Santa's reindeers. As most of you might remember, they go like this: Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, and Vixen, Comet, Cupid, and what comes next? Is it Donner and Blitzen or Dunder and Blixen? The way I have always known them is as Donner and Blitzen, so obviously that can't be right anymore. Their names now are Dunder and Blixen. I'll let that sink in. As always with all Mandela effects, sometimes what you remember has never changed. Other times it's completely different. Some affect everyone, and some affect very few. I say this to help all of those who might be confused. I'm sure some of the people watching this remember Dunder and Blixen, but I guarantee the vast majority of people do not. To us, it's Donner and Blitzen. These 8 reindeer names originated in a poem by Clement C. Moore titled A Visit from St. Nicholas all the way back in 1823. This poem is also known today as 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. Somehow or another, it seems that every reindeer name has been memorized and recited with perfect clarity over hundreds of years, except for Dunder and Blixen. What do you think about this? Has this always been a mistranslated game of telephone? Or a massive case of misremembering? Or has the Mandela effect made yet another change to our collective history and memory? I can't wait to hear what you have to say below, and for the people with kids out there, get them to name all of Santa's reindeers. I'm super curious to hear what they say. Let us all know in the comments below. Let's actually delve deeper into that poem I mentioned earlier called 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. It turns out there's actually another Mandela effect hiding inside of that poem. So just like with Smokey Bear, sometimes when things are very closely examined, multiple effects can be discovered. I'm going to read a verse from that poem and I'm going to leave an area blank. I want you to tell me what goes in that blank space. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads, and Mama in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled for a long winter's nap. What goes in that blank? Is it our brains or is it down? The correct answer is, for some strange reason, our brains. Do you remember that? How does that make you feel? I personally remember, and Mama in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled down for a long winter's nap. Is this a case of mass misremembering? Did we all remember this poem incorrectly, or has this changed from what you remember? And is yet another example of the Mandela effect. Let me hear all of your thoughts below. This one is strange, so strange I don't even have an introduction or a thoughtful question to ask you about it. Have you ever heard of an upside-down Christmas tree? Yes or no? So the answer is yes, upside-down Christmas trees are a thing. The upside-down Christmas trees are pine trees or fir trees that are flipped upside down so that the wider base is at the top and the smaller top is pointed downwards. In modern days, this trend caught on when holiday window displays at major stores would put upside-down Christmas trees out so that more ornaments could be seen by the public. This bizarre phenomenon supposedly dates back to 12th century Eastern Europe, where the upside-down Christmas tree was meant to represent the Christian Holy Trinity. Somehow. Have any of you ever heard of this now popular and widely known Christmas tradition? Upside-down Christmas trees just seem impractical and silly to me, yet here they are. Do you place your trees like this? Do you know anyone that does? Have you even seen this before? I never have, not once. In all the department stores, all the friends' houses, all the homes I've lived in, I've never heard of this before. Historical Mandela effect changes are the weirdest ones to talk about, because for some people, this is a totally normal thing, and for the rest of us, it's completely unheard of.
December is here, and like many, Christmas is on my mind. So let's make a Christmas video. Obviously, decorations and colder weather are a part of the season, but so is Christmas shopping, if you participate in that. I did most of my shopping online, but just to feel nostalgic, I went and visited some physical stores. Now, as I walked around one of these dying ancient retail monuments, I noticed something that really confused me. I heard a classic song playing over the speaker in a department store. Upon hearing the song, I got a little confused.
Up on the housetop, reindeer paws.
Up on the housetop? I always thought it was up on the rooftop. So I went and looked it up, and here are the results. Up on the Housetop is a Christmas song by Benjamin Hanby in 1864. Now if you're like me, you remember it being up on the rooftop. So, did it change? Are there variations of it, or is this an example of the Mandela effect? Well, we're going to get into that, but first a quick and tragic history lesson about Benjamin Hanby. Why, you might ask? Well, I'm in a giving mood, and what's better than an interesting backstory? Benjamin Hanby was born in Rushville, Ohio, to a local bishop by the name of William Hanby, who was involved in the administration of the Underground Railroad. If you don't know what that was, the Underground Railroad in America was a network of people, both black and white, offering aid and shelter to escaped slaves from the South. Benjamin Hanby vehemently opposed slavery, which made it difficult for him to blend into the more conservative fraternity that the church attracted. Not only that, once he took over his father's church, he ran into a lot of trouble. Because he had alternative views on church music compared to what was deemed acceptable at the time, as well as how to educate children. Because he failed at keeping his position in numerous churches, Benjamin had trouble providing for his wife and children. There was one point in time where he wrote a song called Darling Nellie Gray, which he sent the manuscript of to a publisher called the Oliver Ditson Company of Boston. He assumed that the song had been rejected until he heard his sister singing it at a recital. It was soon discovered that the Oliver Ditson Company had published the song under Hanby's name but claimed the copyright for themselves. So Hanby sued the firm, but only won $50, which is about $1,560 today, as well as 12 free copies of sheet music. Benjamin eventually ran a singing school and crafted music for the John Church Music Company, but he still didn't make enough money to take care of his family. When it was all said and done, Benjamin Hanby ultimately crafted and published over 80 songs, but passed away at the young age of 33 from tuberculosis. Like so many great artists throughout history, he wasn't truly recognized during his lifetime. Now that you have the background on Benjamin Hanby, let's get to the bottom of this mystery surrounding his song. Upon doing some research, the first thing I found was an article called Up on the Rooftop on a website called ChristmasHeadquarters.com. Okay, this sounds promising. I mean, ChristmasHeadquarters.com? That sounds pretty official to me. Then I read it. Throughout the article, the writer calls it Up on the Rooftop, but the embedded YouTube video says Up on the Housetop. Huh? How could you not notice that difference? You put the video in your article. The article even says Up on the Rooftop was written by Benjamin Hanby. If you click on his name, it takes you to the Wikipedia page for him, where it says he composed Up on the Housetop. Why does the name keep changing? Was it written to be Housetop, or was it written to be Rooftop? Well, apparently, the original lyrics are as follows.
Up on the house, no delay, no pause. Clatter the steed of Santa Claus. Down throw the chimney with loads of toys. Ho for the little ones, Christmas joys.
I'm gonna be honest, the shorter version right there, I think that's incredible. I think we should all just sing that instead. Anyway, apparently it wasn't ever Rooftop. And as for Housetop, that's only in the name of the song. In the original lyrics, it only ever says house. So what do you think about all this? Or does it even matter? Is this just a song that changed over time? Just like how people in different parts of the world use different colloquial phrases, such as housetop or rooftop, and because of that, the lyrics changed over time? Or would you attribute this to the Mandela effect? Honestly, for this one, I don't really know. I always grew up singing On the Rooftop, but maybe I was wrong all along. Upon digging further, I found a ton of renditions of this song using housetop, and only a few country versions using rooftop. So make of that as you will.
For this next Mandela effect, we are traveling to an island called Svalbard. This Norwegian archipelago is located in the Arctic Ocean way north of Europe. Have you ever heard of this island before? From what I have come to understand during my research, Svalbard is a hotly contested Mandela effect. Numerous people claim that they have never seen or heard of this island before, despite globes, atlases, and world maps being widespread and prevalent in schools across the United States of America. Pulling up pictures of those same globes and world maps and atlases today shows Svalbard sitting right where it belongs, as if it's always been there. I'm not claiming to be an expert on this one, I just think it's very interesting and pretty fascinating that so many people are arguing over this. Have you ever heard of it before? I'm sure there are more than a few of you asking yourself, how is this even related to Christmas? Well, it's pretty simple. It has polar bears, and even Santa Claus's official mailbox. I'm not even joking. Not to mention there's a man named Santa Claus that lives there in an old mine. I'm not joking. Go look it up. I guess what happens in the Arctic Ocean stays in the Arctic Ocean. Frosty the Snowman is a childhood classic to many in the United States. He was a snowman brought to life through magic in a 1950 recording, but became a household name in his 1969 animated film debut. Frosty the Snowman is a memorable character, and if you ask most people, they can describe every detail about him. But miraculously, Frosty is now missing something. So here's what I'd like you to do. Visualize all of the accessories and clothing articles on Frosty the Snowman. Now what do you see? Let's see what we've got. We have a button nose, we have two eyes made out of coal, and here is the Mandela effect. Which of these items did he never adorn in the 1969 film? An old silk hat? A corncob pipe? A red scarf? A broom? Frosty the Snowman has an old silk hat, a broom, and a corncob pipe, but has surprisingly never worn a red scarf. Do you remember a red scarf? For some reason, dozens of people online seem to remember Frosty the Snowman wearing a scarf, and most remember it being red. So where did it go? Why do so many people remember this detail that now seemingly doesn't exist?
It's really interesting. Even some modern-day Frosty the Snowman publications and media today show him wearing a red scarf. If you compare the past and the present, at some point some artist said, "Oh yeah, of course he has a red scarf," and drew Frosty with a red scarf. Does this prove he used to have a scarf, and that the past has been altered in some slight way? Or is this just a massive case of misremembering an iconic childhood character? I'll leave that for all of you to argue over in the comments below. Oh, and before I leave this topic, check out this funny little detail. Look at what the kids are wearing in Frosty the Snowman. You see anything wrong with this image? Did the creative behind these illustrations grow up in a place without snow? Do they not realize it's cold? These kids are wearing shorts in a blizzard. Anyway,